Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to my channel. You have watched up to now my reviews on the other books like Madhav G. Rao Sindhya, um, Devil's Advocate, uh, Last Mughal Warrior in Love, as well as the book on Game Changers by Veer Sanghvi. Today we are here to review the book by Sonu Bhasin written on Rai Bahadur Gujarmal Modi. The book is very unique in a way that there are several things which have come to my attention which I did not know. Having been raised in Delhi, in the nearby Delhi, and a chartered accountant who had great familiarity with Modi Nagar and the industries in Modi Nagar, um, a kind of acquaintance very remotely. I found the book to be very interesting, very well researched book, and very well written. Gujarmal Modi was born in the year 2002, 1902. He belonged to a Marwadi family but was born and raised in Punjab. Marwad has given a lot of industrialists to India, starting with Birla, Birlas and then Singhanias. And there are many others as well. Modi Empire, one time in his lifetime, ranked among the seventh largest industrial empire in India. Gujarmal Modi name, Gujarmal came, was not the original name given to him, but he used his he preferred this name because it was named after his mother, uh, Gujari, Gujari or Gujari. His mother had died but was raised by his, his stepmother, who really took good care of him. His father's name was Multani Mal because he was born in Multan. Gujarmal Modi did not complete the school because of the need of his family who wanted to induct him into their business. Still, Gujarmal Modi, when he established Modi Nagar, brought the best of educational institutions in, in Modi Nagar. He recruited the best teachers, best institutions, engineering college, a commerce college, brought into Modi Nagar. In the book, there is a mention about one of his sons who was not accepted in Meerut, in a college in Meerut, led him to set up an engineering college in Modi Nagar. The book also mentions about the UP state asking him to help in setting up industries elsewhere in the state. His flour mill, Modi Flour, is still very well known and is a landmark in Delhi. The, his grandfather was Chiranjila, and I think the book starts with a very interesting incident where the family saved two white people when people were turning against the British people, Modi family saved these two people, and by a very unique way that they put boot polish on their faces so that they are not seen as whites but as local people, and they were taken out of the place on a bullock cart. Surely the family was rewarded for them saving the English people. Nowadays, when people of my generation or people of my next generation, when they look at how these industrialist families helped the British people, would wonder about how come these people sided with the British people. But the thing about this is, for a business to run, they need the patronage of whosoever is the government that time. This was true 100 years ago, it is true still now. No business empire can flourish without the patronage of the government. So I do not take that as an issue. Gujarmal Modi helped the British Indian Army when they were supplying the provisions to the army. So much so, the British government even decided first they gave him Rai Bahadur and they were ready to confer him the knighthood. But it did not happen because it was more happening more towards the time when people were awakening that India should be a separate state. India should have independence. There were some industrialists who did get knighthood, like Lala Shri Ram, who became Sir Shri Ram, who set up Delhi cloth mill. But they were mainly due to the fact that they supported the British Empire. I was told by my father one time that in his times in college and when came to Delhi to take up this job, they did not never believed that India could be an independent country. It was a given fact that they will have to live on serving the British people. So that the position that time which was obtaining, it could not be expected that these industrialists would have been fighting with the British government. The book has some very interesting incident of Gujarmal meeting Nehru. The meeting was set up in a restaurant in Muradnagar. This shows this incident Sonu Bhasin has very impressively brought out. I would say it's very impressive. Establish two things. One, Gujarmal Modi never minced his words. He said whatever he had to say. Secondly, he was a die-hard Hindu who had firm belief in Hinduism. Nehru at one stage says to him that these industrialists are always very eager to meet him. So why do they complain about him? Why they are they do not like Congress? Modi's simple response was And this he said in his other context as well, when Nehru asked him how come he has been very successful as an industrialist. His answer was, it is because of my past karmas. And he said to Nehru, because he's gaining prominence in the country and he's more industrialists look to him. He said, sir, this is also because of your previous karmas, that you are prime minister. If you are not a prime minister, these people will not have been going after him. He advised Nehru that government should be pro business because industrialists employ the workers and they look after their workers and they will do a better job if government ma- makes the environment business friendly. Gujarmal Modi was a very determined person, very courageous person, and in real sense, in our Hindu philosophy, he was a Karam Yogi. He came from the state of Patiala. In fact, he was banished there from the state of Patiala. The book writes that Maharaja used to give permissions, approvals, and he used to withdraw those approvals and permissions at his whims. Gujar, Gujarmal Modi attended a function in the palace when Maharaja's victory was being celebrated. Gujarmal Modi faith in Hinduism, his attitudes towards life, that he's remained all his life a strict Hindu, eating vegetarian food, and he was very health conscious. He never used to drink. The incident as narrated by Sonu Bhasin says that he was offered a drink in the party and he refused. Somehow, the chamchas of the king went to him and said, "Oh, this man doesn't celebrate your victory." Raja decided to banish him from his state. The book says about Punjabi's likings for merrymaking, for drinking. They could not do the merrymaking without drink. Even today, this is true. Now things have changed. One doesn't have to be Punjabi to drink. Drink is becoming order of the day. More so in India. When I visit India, I feel that we living out in the West, we are backward. But I can tell you from my younger days in Delhi and having been raised in Delhi within Punjabis, I could say that they always took pride in drinking. So I could imagine what would have happened to Gujarmal in the palace when he was forced to take the drink, but he refused, and the king sort of expelled him from the state. This perhaps was the reason that Gujarmal Modi founded what was later to become a thriving business center in industrial town of Modinagar. And from reading this in the book, I can only say sometimes when things happen, the things happen for a reason, and sometimes they happen for good. Gujarmal would not have thought of rehabilitating Begumabad as the Modi Nagar. He perhaps would have found some place near uh, in his in the state of Patiala. There are several areas in the book which have shown about his resourcefulness, his determination to succeed. In the real sense, even though he came from a business family, he can really be termed as a self-made industrialist. It is easier in a country where the, what India is today, when you have new entrepreneurs coming, as I said in my review of the book Game Changers, several new billionaires which have been added one after the other. They have been successful in their ventures, such as Nilkani, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Kiran Mazumdar Shah. I do not undermine their success in any way, but just imagine what it would have been like when you could not do anything without a license or approval of the government. The communications were primitive. The, the people, the skill set of the people was very limited. Education was in its early stages in India. There were no IITs and there were no training centers. There were no management experts. So, and the type of businesses were limited at that time. When you talk of electronics, there were no air conditioners. If you talk of any electronic, it would be limited to like the fans, electric fans, electric iron, etc. In that environment, someone to establish the seventh largest industrial empire was a very big accomplishment, and one has to give credit for this to Rai Bahadur Gujarmal Modi. I think Sonu Bhasin has been very objective in writing this book. Everything is not good about Rai Bahadur Gujarmal Modi. She has brought out some areas where there were some issues about his personality. If someone has come from a state where one has to live according to the whims of the Maharaja, one would expect that he will be really kind to others. Perhaps that will make soften him up. But Sonu Bhasin says there were some areas due to which Gujarmal could never be called a soft-spoken person. When he was very strict about his exercise and his walks in the morning, and there were one or two people who used to walk with him. They were always behind him. This was at the time where people who were to approach him will go, will find Modi at that time to really approach him. And his aides will convey to Gujarmal that this person is walking behind us, he wants to talk to you. Gujarmal Modi used to drive. His driver had a very distinctive car, and when he's driving, he will pat his driver and say, "Go slow." His car could easily be identified as Gujarmal Modi's car, but nobody could overtake that car. His motto was, "Nothing will should come between me and my work." This is just off the track, and it's not relating to book, but I find it essential to mention this. I did chartered accountancy in Delhi and later in England. When I was article, one of the audits I used to go to was Hastinapur. Hastinapur is about 100 kilometers from Delhi. You can go up to train up to Meerut and then you take a bus from there. Otherwise, you can go by bus to Meerut and change bus in Meerut. One of the persons who was to go to audit with me came from a family whose father was very high up in the railways. He used to get railway passes. He told me, Deepak, let's take the train up to Meerut. We can go in first class. I'll be able to get the pass. He got the pass, but I paid for first class. We sat in the train, and Modi Nagar is a railway station which is after Ghaziabad and but before Meerut. At Meerut, we were in a coupe in the first class, and we had not locked the door from inside. But all of a sudden, we saw three people came in our room, in our coupe, asking us to get up and leave the coupe. Why? They told me Lalaji, meaning Gujarmal Modi, will be sitting in the next coupe, and he wouldn't want anybody to be sitting in the next coupe next to him. Before we could even answer anything, these people lifted our stuff and took it out and put in the gallery. Leave, sir. Please leave. We went out and and sat in a very crowded area. It was a first class, so it was not that crowded, but still, we sat my friend got a seat, but I couldn't get the seat. I kept standing, but I saw Gujarmal getting in and getting into the coupe. It left me in a very bitter taste, not a good experience for a young person growing and becoming and aspiring to be an accounting professional. But that was his way, and this still does not take away for what all good he did. He was a devout Hindu who believed in taking pilgrimages. He went to Badrinath even though Dr. Crawley, his cardiologist, advised him not to walk brisk, not to go climb uh, climb areas where he has to go up, and because it would not be good for his heart. He didn't listen to the doctor. He went because he believed that he must go to the Char Dhams, which a Hindu should go before he departs this world. It meant really a tragedy for the family as well, because his father Multani Mal went with him to pilgrimage, and there he caught pneumonia, and eventually he died. But he really was so particular about certain aspects of being Hindu. They talk about when he went to Europe later on in his life and the hardships he faced in finding Indian food. What to talk of Hindu food? They could not even find vegetarian food. But he lived, he survived with whatever he could get. I can say this because when we came in this part of the world, and I am a vegetarian as well, we used to travel. We will go places like Orlando, where sometimes you will get a pizza someplace. Pasta and other things were not that well known those days. All that you could ask for is boiled vegetables. Can you imagine what it would have been like in early 60s? But Gujarmal and his wife still had to take, do whatever they had to do in Europe. Other thing the book talks about, and I had heard about this before too. My maternal uncle, also a chartered accountant with Paul Mehra and Company. Paul Mehra and Company, PR Mehra and Company, were the auditors for Modi Nagar, all Modi empire. And I heard that within the profession, that PR Mehra and Company in Delhi was set up after Mehras came from Lahore to Delhi. They had a big office in Lahore. It was perhaps in Lahore that Mr. Mehra would have come in contact with Mr. Modi. But they were the auditors for all of the units of, of the Modi empire. My maternal uncle used to mention about, because he used to attend a lot of these what is would have been the darbars of where Gujarmal Modi used to speak. The only voice you could have heard there was Gujarmal Modi, nobody else. And there he used to talk about what he dreamt and how he acted according to his dreams. The book talks about an incident where Gujarmal Modi is concerned about raising the yield of sugar from sugarcane. The book says that he got a dream, a Mahatma advising him that he should add lime milk to increase the quantity of sugar to be extracted from the sugarcane. Gujamal Modi argued with his Dutch chemist who didn't agree to it, but he still went ahead with the experiment and it did work out. Book has given the scientific reasonings behind it, how it worked, and it is very well said that his resourcefulness, his creativity, unmatched. The two incidents given where there are many incidents, but two are very prominent about his sugar mill site got flooded because he was taking labor from the nearby village sugarcane farming. The Sirhoi village, so that the those zamindars, the landlords who used to do the farming, they were not very happy with Gujarmal taking away their workers. So what he did was he took one of his two loyals with him and he saw where the zamindars had made a bund just to create a bund so that the water could be diverted from the canal into the construction site of the sugar mill. Gujarmal Modi, in the dark night, he asked his two lawyers to use the shotguns, and that, and then they had said, "Oh, daku aa gaye," and this the watchman got scared and ran for his life. They could dismantle the bund so that the water could really flow into the canal. Another incident which talks about his creativity. It is only creativity, but I will take it in another light. Although Gujarmal was expelled or banished from Patiala, but he had a good heart. He helped Maharaja to recover his debt from a mill in Bhatinda. The Maharaja asked him, can he help him in recovering the money he loaned to the mill, offered his army to go along with him. Gujarmal refused to take the army with him and said, Sir, I'll manage. He invites the British general manager and his associate to his rest house where he was staying for a tea and leaves the place on the pretext that he was using the restroom and he goes into the office of the sugar mill of the mill and goes into the safe telling the munshi of of mill that he has been searched by the British general manager and got money from this. He found out where the safe was, took out the money, and the debt was repaid. Maharaja got something done which he could not have done otherwise. He was also instrumental in using in his family business the transportation through the trains because they found out one of their competitor was using trains. Gujarmal went to Lahore to meet with the railway company officials and was succeeded. He did succeed in getting trains to carry the cargo of the business. Went to that time Calcutta and found out how the soap was made. This was when he set up his soap factory in in Modi Nagar. There are enough places where he had uh, done some things, unusual things, to make Modi Nagar what it ultimately became. If I were to offer any advice to Sonu Bhasin, this would have added to the value of the book. If she had gone through the financials of all the Modi enterprises and put a net worth of those companies. Because what she had is a turnover, and turnover by no means can be can be the barometer for the success of a business. It is one of the uh, things, one of the ratios which are used by us accounting professionals or the financial analysts. But this is not all. The bottom line is very important. So is the retained earnings of a business. This would have made the book more useful. But I guess she perhaps could not get this information because you are talking of almost 40 years ago what the business was at that time. Also, she has given as an appendix the businesses, the remnants of the business of the Modi Empire now, because the family branched out. Some of the children took control of the businesses. Modi never left a will, so it didn't show how these assets were to be distributed. In fact, he had a very unique idea, which I find it very amazing as written in the book. Modi himself did not have any concept of ownership. He had what was, in fact, he himself remained in a house which was leased to him uh, by his business. And so, this was also the case with all his family members. His idea was not to part with the ownership or distribute ownership in his business, his family members, which I find very unique and very creative. If that concept were to be applied to most of all our family matters, these divisions in the assets after the death, the breakups in the family could have been very much avoided. This is true for most of the business houses, Singhanias, builders, Modi, itself. But be as it may, I have I tried my level best to put a value on the businesses as they exist now because there have been a lot of changes in these businesses over the years. Not all of them are owned directly by the Modi family descendants. There is a mention of many areas where Modi ventured into. One of the things which is missing in the book is the Modi Luft. Modi family really wanted to get into the airline business as well, and they did have a joint venture with Lufthansa. It did not go very far. They went to the technology areas like Xerox, Modi Xerox. The way all businesses are progressing now is because they are entering in the IT field. Like Birla has a company called Birla Soft, and it looks as if those businesses which are not entering into the IT field are being left behind. This is the future. Businesses today are not building and mortar, software and technology is where the future lies. Fintech is coming. That is why you have a person like Vijay Shekhar Sharma making it very high. His IPO was the largest after Coal India, 16 or 18,000 crores of rupees. Now it is a different matter the market valuation has come down very significantly. On the whole, I would like to everyone to encourage to read this book. It has been very inspiring to me. Gujarmal belonged to the older generation, my father's generation, but his thinking that time was what would have been modern thinking right now. Salute to him and Sonu, you have done a remarkable job. I know what it would have meant for you to be writing a book like this. I'm personally thinking of doing a research of another entrepreneur of today's date, that is Kiran Mazumdar Shah, who established Biocon. And I can tell you the problems and the challenges I am facing in writing that kind of book, doing the research. I know you must have gone through a lot. Congratulations, and I think your success in the book speaks for itself. The book came out on 10th February. Within 2 months, you had got another reprint of the book, so that shows the popularity of the book. Thank you for listening to me. I'll come back with another review of the book. Until then, thank you. Bye.